I am so excited to have you on Profitable Pursuits, Becca, from Hell Yes Coaching. But you have more than just Hell Yes Coaching. You are a multi-passionate business owner, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I am getting ready to have my fourth business baby here pretty soon.
So why don't we just jump into it? Can you share a little bit about yourself, your four businesses, and like just give us the rundown on who you are and all that jazz?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Becca Pike. I am a mom of four beautiful babies. They are not babies at all anymore, ages 14 down to 5. And I am a wife. I am an athlete. All of those things come first in my life, to be quite honest. And I started my business adventure when I was about 25 years old. I became a massage therapist, and I had no intention at all of starting a business whatsoever. But I was working with this chiropractor who had me massaging people from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday. Okay. I was young, I was in my 20s, I was pregnant. I remember it being really hard work. But on Sundays, he allowed me to see all of my own clients and keep 100% of the income. And I got a taste of what it would be like to own a business. That was my very first taste of having a service, selling it, keeping the profits. And to be quite honest, a beast was born. From the minute he let me start doing that, I started scheming on how I could have my own place. And then Massage Strong of Lexington, Kentucky was born. So now we have two massage locations. We have over 40 massage therapists that work on staff. And that was my first business. So
That is so cool. Why I love your story even more is you share a lot on your Instagram, and if you are not following, you absolutely need to, about how it wasn't like handed to you. A business wasn't handed to you. This fancy, glorified trust fund life wasn't given to you. You really worked for it and like turned things around, if that's a fair way to say.
yes. To say that I was uneducated in business would be an absolute understatement. I had no clue what to do. I remember, every little thing felt like a huge leap. I remember getting stuck specifically on this, not knowing how to take people's credit cards. I remember I was dating my husband at the time. He was my boyfriend at the time. And I remember telling him, I was like, well, I can't own a business because if they're not paying cash and they're not doing check, I don't know what to do. And I remember him telling me like, "Becca, we can figure it out. Like, we can work through this." And like, that's how beginner I was. I mean, truly started from the bottom. And that's what I think a lot of people, so now I coach business and I help people with their businesses. And a lot of people say the same thing, which is, I like working with you because you make it so simple and you break these really large ideas down into something that is very digestible. And I don't know that I'm doing that necessarily. I think that that stems from forcing myself to make it simple in my own mind to begin with so that I could even grasp it. And now that's how I teach it naturally.
I love that. When did you go from owning, which you still own your massage businesses, two of them, to then branching out into a third business of your coaching?
Yes, so I think my massage business was probably about 2.5, 3 years old when people started coming to me and asking to pick my brain. I live in a small city, is what I would call it, maybe a very large town, and it was obvious how fast Massage Strong was growing, and especially in the massage therapy community, and people wanted to pick my brain on business, like, hey. How is this happening? Like, do you have investors? Like, what's going on? Is this a chain that you bought? Like, what are we seeing going down? And I remember coming to my husband and I remember telling him, "Man, all these people are asking to pick my brain. I wish I could get paid for this because I really love it. Like, I love going to the coffee shops and sitting down and helping people with their business and I would love to be paid for this because I'm spending a lot of my time doing it." And he said, well, yeah, you can. It's called coaching. And I said, "No, that's dumb. That's not real. That's not that's not a real thing." And he was like, "No, it's actually a really big industry." He was like, that's like what Tony Robbins does." And I was like, "No, that doesn't sound right. I bet you have to have some sort of license for that." And he said, "No, you don't. You can just start." And so that day, literally that day, I got my first client because I was like, okay, I'm going to see if this is real. I went and I Googled, what is a business coach? This is how simple it started. All my businesses started very basic. I went and Googled, what is a business coach? And it gave me just a very generic answer. And I was like, do you have to have a license? And it gave me the answer, no, you don't. And I contacted some of the people that continued to ask me for business coaching. And I just simply said, hey, why don't we make this a thing where instead of me just seeing if maybe I have time, I make time and we meet once a month and we do this and you pay me. And that day, I had someone, she was my very first client. She owned a granite countertop company and she was like, yes. And another beast was born.
I love that. When I opened up my accounting firm, and got into the online space, I never knew like business coaching was a thing. I don't consider myself a business coach. We are an accounting agency who help people become profitable. But I was like, what are all these coaches? Like, right when you enter like the Facebook, Instagram world, I was like, everyone's a coach. What is this? So 5 years ago, I learned about it as well too. I had no idea it was a thing.
Yeah, same here. I had no clue. And now I'm
Mhm.
so engrossed in the whole industry. It's amazing, like how much it has just taken over my life. Just all coach everything at this point.
In fact, one of your clients was like, you need to go follow her. I was like, okay, I can do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, super cool. So before we dive into like the strategies and why you would credit yourself to having this profitable business, do you mind talking a little bit what your businesses have done for you personally? If you have any.
Yes. So, let's see. I am 34 years old. 8 years ago, I couldn't afford to literally put food on the table. 10 years ago, I was getting eviction notices. I was a waitress. I was on food stamps. I was on like government housing, Section 8. I was broke, 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 broke. Um, I started my companies about 7 to 8 years ago. Honestly, probably more like 7 years ago. And it took a solid year to start generating solid income. And in the last, I mean, I would say in the last 5 years, I have broken into seven figures in all of my businesses.
Yes.
And they are still growing. I've spent the last year making my businesses more scalable, so that I can welcome in more clients without it taking on, a lot more work on my end, which has been quite a journey. And now I can easily say that I'm a multi seven figure earner. I'm seeing somewhere around 150 to $400,000 per month in my businesses.
I freaking love that. Good for you. Why I love that so much, it's not like literally about collecting dollars, it's what those dollars allow you to do, not only for yourself and your family, but I truly believe that the more money you take in, that's how we change the world by changing ourselves, our family, our communities, and that's how we can
Yeah.
be real change.
Yeah, to me, it's like it's well, first of all, I don't want to say it's not about the money. Listen, money is phenomenal and fun, and I love it. But it was who I had to become with all of those dollars. So, like, for me to reach, $2,000 a month in my business required me to look at a lot of the skeletons in the closet that I didn't know were there. A lot of my fears, a lot of my worries, a lot of my concerns, a lot of my, like, where was I holding myself back? What was I refusing to say in front of people? How was I refusing to sell my services because of what I thought people might think of me? Like going from 0 to $2,000 a month required me to become a whole different person. And then
Yeah.
going from 2,000 to 10,000 almost killed me because I had to do it all over again, right? You get comfortable at 2,000 and all of a sudden you have to become this other person. You have to do it all over again. What am I fearful of? How am I holding myself back? Same thing. And then to go from 10 to 20, 20 to 80, 80 to 100, 100 to 400. I mean, it sounds cliche and I feel like it's on like every, poster, like it's so cliche, right? Like the more that like who you become is the journey and whatever. But it's so real. Like the amount of money you make is a direct reflection of who you are willing to be and the work that you've put in and your mindset. because every single stage has its own problems that you have to overcome to get to the next level.
For sure. I like to say that money just gives you the opportunity to do things.
Yep.
As I dive into this next question, I love to ask people who wouldn't define, like, if you were to like take your LinkedIn title or your title on your business card, it wouldn't say like marketing strategist, but obviously you have to do a lot of marketing to obtain or attract clients. Could you give the audience some tips on how you go about attracting clients or obtaining clients, whether it's in your massage business or if it's in your business coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I keep it really real and really simple. I've been in a lot of business entrepreneur communities where they spend a lot of time perfecting this elevator pitch. Like, I am someone who can grow your business by 6 figures in 3 days. And I have never said anything more than I help people grow their businesses. When someone asks me at a barbecue, when someone asks me on an elevator, when someone asks me wherever I'm at, I just say, I help people grow their businesses. And if they want to continue to ask more, I let them and I answer in the most human way possible. There is nothing that is fake or put together or anything that I have practiced over time that doesn't just come out naturally. And I think it's weird when it does. And I've never wanted to present myself in a way that felt hard. And I think that I attribute that mindset also to how I became successful quickly, because I remember just always being really real with people, even looking back at the massage businesses. I would tell people, I'd be like, listen, they're coming in, they've got 20 years of back pain. And I would tell them, listen, I think I can fix that. I think that I know what's going on. And come in, if you can commit to 5 or 7 sessions, we'll see if you're at 80% pain relief by the end of it. And if you're not, I'll give you your money back. Like, that's how I approached coaching too. I remember what the girl with the granite company, my very first person, I told her, I said, hey, I think I can really help you. Why don't we do a couple months? I'll literally hold on to the money. And if it sucks, because I've never done this before, I'll just give you your money back. And that allowed me to play so much. It allowed me to keep myself simple. It allowed me to not feel like I needed to put on a show. And it allowed me to not feel like I needed to fulfill some weird promise that I made that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to handle. And so I guess my answer to that is, like, keep it really simple and keep it really real, and don't
I love that.
try to be someone you're
Um,
not.
I just shared a post on this. I think the whole new marketing era, and I would attribute to you to being ahead of it, is now you see all these guarantees like join, sign up, whatever, and I'll guarantee services. It sounds like you were doing that before you had to almost.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just part of, trying things out and trying to be as honest as you can.
For sure. So obviously, to have a profitable business, obtaining clients is just like one piece of the puzzle. I get so nervous to say obtaining clients now because I was talking with someone who's like, "No, you attract clients." And I'm like, okay.
Oh,
So however you want to call it, it's just one piece of the puzzle. What is like your biggest tip, trick, strategy to running a business that's like personally profitable for you?
um, the lifestyle that's surrounded by it. I mean, again, I know it sounds cliche, but I swear, like, when I am hyper focused on me feeling good, I become more creative. And then I am able to attract clients, to get clients, to whatever you want to call it, right? Obtain clients, which, by the way, who cares what you call it? People got to stop that. So, yeah, I feel like the more that I get away from behind my desk and I stop asking myself, where's my next client? How do I get another client? What can I do to get another client? And I get my ass up and I go on a hike and I go and play basketball with my 14-year-old. Or I get up and I go and just go live your life. That's where creativity flows. And there's all these different tactics that you can use. There's all these different things that you can do. Should you focus on social media? Should you have a podcast? Should you go to networking events? Should you write emails? Should you focus on emailing versus Facebook versus LinkedIn? Listen, it doesn't even matter which one you choose or what you do. There's people everywhere. We're surrounded by humans all over the place that want our services. But whenever I sit behind my desk and try to force myself to get a client, nothing happens. It doesn't work. But when I go out into the world and I'm just my normal self and people are asking and conversing with me and talking to me, "Hey, what do you do?" And you start telling them, "Hey, I run businesses or I help coach people with businesses." And there's this genuine human connection that happens. And then they come into your world and they see your services and it's really high quality. And then they tell their friend who tells their friend who tells their friend. You don't have to sell your business anymore. If you're an honest person and you're down to earth, you're easy to talk to, and you have results to show for it, you're going to sell out if you have a quality product.
I love that. Here's a fun one for you. So I think you said you're going on 8, between 7 and 8 years you've been in business. That's the number. If you had to have the success you have today in half the amount of time, so you're starting over and you have to get to where you are today in half the amount of time, how would you do it?
Which company? All of it?
Just like a holding company in whole.
Ah, I would start my podcast sooner. My podcast has funneled a lot of people to me, and I had no idea that it was going to blow up the way that it did. And I just started it like, I guess it was a little over a year and a half ago. So I would do that way sooner. If you are someone who feels like you can story tell or you feel like you have some sort of like, I've always kind of felt like I have this gift that I'm able to just talk to people very easily. Um, that comes through in my podcast. So if anybody that's listening to this feels like, hey, I've always been told that I'm easy to talk to or that I'm good at storytelling, get yourself a podcast for sure. So I would start my podcast earlier. I would put more emphasis on Instagram. So, like, I know that you love following me on Instagram. I just started really learning about it like 6 months ago. And if you scroll down far enough,
Really?
you can see in my Instagram where I didn't give a shit about anything. It was just like it was all over the place. I posted just whatever I wanted with no strategy at all. So I would have taken Instagram more seriously. Instagram is such a playground for entrepreneurs. I have gotten so much business through Instagram, but I did not take it seriously until 6 months ago. So I would do that. And I wish I could go back and tell myself, like, if I had to start it all over again, it would be really helpful to know what I know now, which is this whole time I was trying to get as much wealth as I could and build as fast as I could and gain as many followers and clients and whatever as I could, only to get to the wealth and realize that none of it really mattered. I am wealthier than I've ever been right now, and all it has shown me is that I really love going on hikes and walking my dog and my old coffee mug that I've drank out of for 5 years. And I think that if I had known that in the beginning, that there is no destination that's like magical, I could have relaxed more into the journey.
One of my favorite parts about the internet is that you get to meet new entrepreneurs, you get to have this sense of community that you may not have outside your door. And I find it personally like inspiring and interesting, and I love to hear people's goals or what's next. Are you cool sharing like any big goals you're working towards or any like exciting things on your radar, like what you're hoping for or wishing for?
Yeah. So I have always built businesses from the ground, right? Started Massage Strong from the ground, started Hell Yes Coaching from the ground. We also have a drop ship business on Amazon, started from the ground. So, like, I know that very well. And the first 5 years of any startup is difficult. Well, I have come into a situation where I'm not legally allowed to talk about it yet because it hasn't gone through, but I am purchasing a company at the moment. And the closing date is at the end of July. So I will be acquiring a multiple $1 million company at the end of July. And you know how I was telling you, like all these times that like this beast was born, it was kind of like this moment of realization or like an aha moment. Like when I was in the chiropractic office, like, oh my gosh, I can make my own money, right? Or when I got my first coaching client, it was like, oh my gosh, I can business coach, right? I'm in one of those aha moments right now where I'm like, oh, I can buy businesses. I don't have to build them. I and obviously that sounds so obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me until I've done it. And now I'm like, I'm getting ready to buy a company that is going to generate so much more money to me. And it is already fully built, fully staffed, fully managed. It has its social media manager. It's got its, in-house manager. It is aces. And I'm just going to walk in as the owner. And now I'm like, oh, I'm never building another business again. I am going to only buy businesses. And so I've been reading a lot of books on acquiring companies. And so I think in my future, we're looking at venture capitalism. Like I want to buy companies, flip them, sell them the way that you would buy and flip a house. And I think that that's what's next for me.
That is so cool. I want to call it the Cody Sanchez moment.
Hmm.
Do you follow her?
No,
She is the
I
buying
assumed she
businesswoman.
was. Yeah, I assumed that she's a venture capitalist. Is that right?
She is a really badass woman who talks all about buying businesses. She came about talking about buying boring businesses because they are just successful. Um, yeah, you just had your Cody Sanchez moment. That's so cool.
Yeah, that is so funny that you said that, that she says that because every time I tell someone what I'm buying, like my close family, I'm always like, you wouldn't think it would be so successful, right? Like when I say what it is, I'm always like, it's just like a big open room. And they're like, yeah, you're right. I never thought of that as being a successful business. And I'm like, it's a monster. Like it's the boring businesses. That's so funny you said that.
Yeah, and almost how they're recession proof and she's amazing. She's so cool. I think you'd really like her too. Anyhow, where can people follow along? How can they learn more about your coaching and your experiences?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram at one Becca Pike. You can also follow me on my podcast. It is called The Hell Yes Entrepreneur, and it is available on all major platforms.
I love your Instagram because it's spicy. It's not boring. It's not a boring business by any means. And it just gives you I think it gives you like excitement and hope like, hey, if I just keep being a real human and not trying to overcomplicate and fancy, like you can level up and whatever that means to you because it means something different to everyone. That's what I
Yeah,
get when I see your content.
yeah, get the fancy out of here. I want to get rich drinking a Bud Light barefoot in a creek. That's where I want to be, and that's where I'm going to stay.
I absolutely love it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Cool.